Hi guys, I'm Charlie, Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm here again with my boyfriend Michiel, and we're going to do another discussion video for you today. Last time we did a discussion video of Illuminae and Gemina, and I will link it down below if you're interested in watching that. But today we are actually going to talk about Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. I did a buddy read of this with my boyfriend. I've read this 2 times before and this is one of my favorite books ever. So I thought it would be a good idea to read this with my boyfriend. And apparently he really liked it too. Be aware there are going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't read this book, you might not want to continue watching this unless you don't mind being spoiled. Aristotle and Dante is about Aristotle and Dante, but at the beginning of the book they don't know each other until they are both at a pool, they meet, they become friends, and this book is basically a coming of age story, mostly for Aristotle. The book is also from his point of view, but it's basically a story of them getting to know each other, becoming friends, and them growing up together. So let's get started with this discussion. The first question I have for you is, how did you feel about the book overall?
Okay, I really liked the book overall. It was pretty easy to read and it made it even easier because we read it together. And I just really liked the story, but I mainly liked the parts where I actually just kept guessing what would happen in the end. Like, what would Aristotle do with Dante and how would everything turn out?
Yeah, if they would get in a relationship or not, you mean?
Yeah.
Because you kind of felt it coming, because there were obvious hints in this book that Aristotle and Dante would end up in a relationship at the end of the book. And you kind of guessed it, but you were like, well, no, they're not going to end up together. But are they, though? It would be such a good ending if they wouldn't end up together. And then they did end up together, and I just had to keep my mouth shut because obviously I can't tell anything because that would be kind of a spoiler. Obviously, I already told you what I think about this book. I really love it. It's one of my favorite books ever. Benjamin Alire Sáenz is one of my favorite authors ever. I love all of his books I have read so far. Next question. Did you relate to any of the characters? And I think this is a really funny question because we started reading this book and some things Aristotle thought and said and stuff, I was like, well, that is really him. So while we were reading the book and Aristotle would think some of these things, I was like looking at him and I was like, do you relate to this? Do you relate to this? Are you going to smile? Because you relate to this so much. So did you really relate to Aristotle or didn't you?
I did really relate to him. I don't have a particular example in mind at the moment anymore, though.
No, it's true. Aristotle is kind of a loner. He doesn't really like people, especially. He likes being on his own, doing his own stuff. He, most of the time, thinks even Dante is weird. And not to say that my boyfriend doesn't like people, but he is kind of a loner sometimes. And he asks himself deep philosophical questions sometimes. So, I don't know. I don't have a specific example either. We should have used some of those tabs in here. We had some really specific situations where we thought like, yeah, that is so you.
He totally hates the world, but that's so me.
Wow. Let's not repeat that, shall we? Did you expect Aristotle and Dante would get together?
I did for quite a long time. Then actually right before they got together, I thought, nah, this ain't happening. But,
yeah, you said it to me and I was like, let's just ignore this and just read on, you know? Because I can't say anything. Poker face.
And I really tried to read your reaction, but it just didn't work.
Poker face. Like I said, I have a really good poker face. I try very hard. Next question is, did you have a favorite moment during this book?
Well, I really liked the moments in the desert and with the 2 girls who were like just teasing Aristotle and trying to make him live a little and do weird stuff.
I get that. I think it's really special that you remember those 2 girls because they were in the book for such a little amount of time. My favorite moment during this book is probably where Aristotle and Dante play this game where they are throwing shoes as far as they can because Dante doesn't really like shoes and it's just an excuse for him to kind of ruin his shoes, I guess, just throwing them on the ground. I don't know, I really like that moment. I also really, it's kind of weird to say, but I also thought it was really special where there was this car accident where Aristotle pushed Dante out of the way and then to kind of save him, but Aristotle didn't really know why he did. He didn't realize that he loved Dante at that point yet. I don't know, it was so obvious for the reader, but Aristotle just didn't realize it. Even though parents realized it, everyone realized it except for Aristotle.
I really liked how he tried to actually cover up that rescue to everyone. Like, he didn't tell anyone what he did. He didn't want anyone to know.
No, and when someone told someone who didn't know yet, he was like, well, I mean...
I'm not a hero.
No.
I didn't have to save him.
Didn't have any significance or anything. He could have died, but doesn't really matter.
Well.
How would you describe the writing style of this book? And you said this before to me as well, and I was really impressed.
It was pretty easy to read, and there were poetic parts in it.
Yes, and you said that to me, and I was like, well, that is because the author actually is a poet. So, and since my boyfriend isn't really a reader, I thought it was very special that he read this book and actually recognized that in it, because it isn't really that obvious. They're very simple sentences, it's very easy to read, but at some point it gets kind of flowery, really poetic, and it's very easy to kind of miss that and just read through it,
The sentences flow really well.
Yes, they do, but it's a certain writing style that you have to like, because there are some people who don't like the really simple sentences that he uses. There's a lot of Ari said, Dante said, he said, she said, and then they have like a lot of dialogue, and then a lot of he said, she said, I said, you know, that kind of stuff, and it's really annoying at some points, and it's very easy to like, ugh, again.
It starts to feel repetitive sometimes, but it also made it kind of poetic sometimes.
That's true. Yeah, I get what you mean with that.
Too.
It did. It definitely did. Did you get into the story immediately? Because it is a very slow-going book, I'd say.
I didn't really have any expectations, so that kind of helped, I feel like. Because I read it with you, it was easier, because, well, you liked the book, so kind of got me hyped up already.
Yeah, and you didn't really know anything about the book. The synopsis is very vague, because it's not really about anything. It's really about Ari and Dante, and you can't really say anything else because you spoil the rest of the book, basically. So all I can say to him was, it is about two boys who have a friendship. I couldn't even say anything about the relationship, because that is something that happens at the end of the book. So all you knew was two boys and a friendship, and that is it.
And specifics like Ari rescued Dante, you can't tell that.
That spoils like a major part at like at the middle of the book. So yeah, you can't really say anything about this book. That is why a discussion is also a good video to make. I feel like it is very hard to do a spoiler-free review of a book like this one, because you can't say anything really. If you had to describe the major themes in this book, what would it be?
Friendship, kind of, well, romance, but not really like a romance novel or anything. How Aristotle dealt with it, yeah, growing up.
Coming of age, yeah, definitely. That's a huge part of this story, where it's mostly about Ari and his friendship with Dante and his romance at the end of the book with Dante, but also his friendship with Gina and Susie, the two girls you were talking about earlier. And obviously coming of age, because Ari changes a lot throughout the story, and it actually leads into my next question. How do you think Ari changed throughout the story?
He was very close to himself at first, very personal, didn't want anyone else's bullshit.
Yeah, didn't really want to talk to anyone, except for himself.
Didn't really want to experience life either, and he really opened up, first with Dante, then those girls and his parents, Dante's parents, and eventually, at the end, also to himself.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Did you like the ending? Did you think it was satisfying?
Yeah, I did. Although, first I saw it coming, then I didn't. And then I still got the satisfying ending I was actually hoping for.
You were telling me that you would think it was a very special ending if they wouldn't, and if it didn't end up together. So were you disappointed when that didn't happen? Like when they did get their happy ending?
It would be pretty cool to have an ending which wouldn't be predictable. If they didn't end up together, it would be a pretty big surprise, but I don't think the message of the author would come out that well. So
no, that's
like
definitely
the ending
true.
that came out right now.
Because the whole book was basically building up to Ari discovering that he was gay, and when and if he didn't end up with Dante, that wasn't any message to this book really. The plot would have been nothing. And basically, that's true.
Ended up like, well, I just read this book. That's fine.
It was absolutely pointless.
Just spend all this time.
What do you think of the idea of a second book? Would you read that?
A second book, I'm not sure what it would be about, because this was definitely pointed in a direction Aristotle is gay, and he was working towards it the whole time. And I'm not sure what's coming next. What would be
a next book? There is coming a next book, by the way. It will always be summer, I believe it's called. It's going to be about Ari's and Dante's future together, I assume. It's still from the perspective of Ari. But would you read that?
I'd definitely read it, because I know this was your favorite book, and I will read it.
Well, I am very hesitant about it myself, not gonna lie, because obviously Ari and Dante, it was such a coming of age story, and there was so little plot. The plot was all about Ari finding himself, so I honestly wouldn't know what it was going to be about, and I would be kind of hesitant to read a sequel, because I've never read a sequel of Benjamin Alire Sáenz. He's only written standalones before, so it is...
Question back though, do you trust the author to make it great?
Well, yeah, I do. I would read it, obviously, but I'm kind of hesitant. I'm just saying, I would still read it. What would you rate this book?
Well...
Out of 5 stars. Like Goodreads rating.
We already rated it in Goodreads rating, but I
but they don't know.
4 out of 5 stars. Yeah.
Okay, and would you recommend it? And why?
I would, definitely also for people who didn't read a lot in the first place, because it's pretty easy to read.
That's true.
And also if you like that poetic writing style, that's pretty good too.
Okay.
I would say though, it's not one of the kind of stories I'm used to, so it's not either sci-fi or action or whatever. There's
not a lot of action, it's
personal.
slow. Character development is a huge part of this story. It's not really story focused. There's not much of a plot. It's mostly about the characters and them developing, basically, throughout the story. I also rated it 4 stars. The first time I rated it 5 stars, but I've downgraded my rating because, I don't know, I don't really like rereading books all that much because they always kind of disappoint me the second time I read them because the magic is kind of worn off. But I still really love this book. It's still one of my favorites. And yeah, it is very easy to read. It's very easy to get through. We got through it really, really fast. I got the feeling. Like, we read so many pages in like one weekend. Well, you aren't even a reader, and we alternated between chapters. And every time we were reading, we were like, oh, shoot, you're having a longer chapter than I do. And I really like reading out loud. And he likes reading out loud, but not a lot. So every time I would get the short chapters and he would get the long chapters. And I was like, ugh, really? I want the long chapters.
I sometimes started struggling.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that was our discussion of Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. Let me know down below. Let us know down below if you've read this book. I hope you did, and that you didn't watch it while you haven't read this book yet. And what did you think about it? Because we would love to know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.